As the family gets seated, I'd just like to confirm that we are Thank you. We'll now proceed with the national anthem. Please be seated. My name is Geraldine Fraser Moleketi. I will be presiding over this ceremony, the first part of it this afternoon. And I'd like to acknowledge a few people. But I'd like to say first and foremost that I'm acknowledging each and every one who is able to join us here in person today and those who are joining us virtually. Special acknowledgement to the Deputy President of the Republic, Deputy President Paul Mashatile. I'd immediately want to recognize the family. I'd like to recognize Meg, Amina, Gavin. I'd like to recognize the Pahad family, as well as the Sharok family. And I'd like to, amidst the Pahad families, also recognize Comrade Aziz Pahad. I'd furthermore like to acknowledge President Thabo Mbeki and Mamzanele Mbeki, who has joined us this afternoon, Deputy President Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka. I was told by a minister to just call her Comrade Nkosazana, and it's because she takes me back in time. I'd also like to recognize the Deputy Secretary General of the ANC, Nomvula Mukonyane, and I'm not sure where the Comrade Solly Mapaila is. I can't see him right now, but he's somewhere in the audience, and then the leadership of all the formations. But I'd also want to recognize a special delegation that has come from the Northwest Province, Because as you are aware, Comrade Essop was born in this little town of Reinica, but he also worked in the Northwest Province over a period of time. So as we continue the proceedings, and we've got a number of time constraints within which to complete it, let me just start with the words of Comrade Essop Pahad. And I must say, having worked with him for so many years and being here, I didn't quite expect this day to come so soon. And of course, for the family, I mean, it was a difficult week. So let me quote him. In the course of my political life, I have had the pleasure, privilege, and honor to know and work with many outstanding women, and I want to add men, fighting for freedom, peace, democracy, and human rights, and for the empowerment and emancipation of women and the working class, quote, close quotes. Meg will recognize this quote because it was out of a particular piece that Essop had written, but that is for another time and another occasion. I'd also want to recognize the Palestinian ambassador who's here with us today, and let me recognize various ambassadors and diplomats that may be present. So let me move to the first tribute, and that's by Comrade Prema Naidu. And Comrade Prema has been a lifelong friend and comrade of Comrade Essop Pahad. And their journey goes with the Transvaal Indian Congress, but actually starts much earlier than that, from the youth movements and epoch-making events, such as the Defiance Campaign, the Congress of the People, the adoption of the Freedom Charter, the Women's March, and more. But I'm just the MC, so let me hand over to you at this point.
Thank you very much, Comrade Geraldine, for that generous introduction. I'm not too sure whether I'm deserving that. I would like to acknowledge, first of all, the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, Comrade Paul Moshetile, our former President, Comrade Thabo Mbeki, and his wife Zanele. I also want to acknowledge there are a number of dignitaries here, and I don't want to bore with you the fact that I have to mention, but I have to mention some. I have to mention Max Sisulu, Eleanor Sisulu, and of course I cannot forget my former mayor, Comrade Amos Masondo, who is here with us. As Geraldine has indicated, my family and the Pahad family go back many a year. As a young boy, I can remember going with my father to Orient House to visit Ghulam Pahad, who was the father of Essop and Amina Pahad. My mother and Amina Pahad went to prison together during the Defiance Campaign. So as a family, we go back a long way. But I also want to talk about the Transvaal Indian Youth Congress, which Essop and his brothers, Junaid, who passed away recently, and Aziz and Nez, who were active members of the Transvaal Indian Youth Congress. And at the time, every major campaign in the country, whether it was the Freedom Charter campaign, the Defiance campaign, the campaign helping the women to march to Pretoria, the bus boycott campaign, the cigarette boycott campaign, Essop and his family played a major role. And today, I also want to say special tribute to Comrade Meg Pahad, Govan, and Amina. The Pahad family has a very, very special place in the history of our family. As we go a long way and we bring memories back of what kinds of campaign that we acknowledge. And it was with those few words on behalf of my family, I would like to extend our deepest condolences to the Pahad family and friends and comrades. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those words. And I didn't exaggerate anything. I actually left a number of things out, Comrade Prema. So yes, indeed, here before us, we have a revolutionary, someone who had engaged in various formations of the movement, who has been part of the movement that's both the ANC and the South African Communist Party. And it takes us back in a time when we think of the last underground congress of the party in Havana, Cuba, where the path to power was charted. And there are a number of comrades in this marquee today and online who were there at that congress. But Comrade Meg, we'll need to have another time and another occasion to traverse these journeys. And on that particular note, because we do have challenges around time, I'd like to call on Comrade Solly Mapaila, the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, to give a tribute on behalf of the South African Communist Party.
Amandla. Long live the undying spirit of Comrade Essop Pahad. Long live. Forward to socialism, forward. Down with capitalism, down. Thank you very much. I had to say this, down with capitalism, even if it's at a funeral, as I acknowledge and greet the leadership of our movement present here, led by Deputy President Paul Mashatile, former President Thabo Mbeki, a great friend of Dr. Pahad. We share your loss. The family of Pahad and associated families, the leadership of the Alliance of the Communist Party and the ANC, senior leaders of government present here, ministers, deputy ministers, and others, leadership of COSATU, and the associated organizations of the liberation movement. Indeed, today, as I thank you, Comrade Geraldine, chairperson of the program, who also served for a long time with Dr. Pahad, and acknowledge the stalwarts of the movement that are here. You have just indicated that Cuban Congress, the last Congress of the Communist Party outside the country. And I think President Mbeki will attest to this point that the Congress said the next Congress will be home, the same as the Cabe Conference. We will need at some point to have a discussion about that Congress in terms of how it shaped the transition in our country and the special role of Dr. Essop Pahad. Dr. Pahad left us at a very difficult point in the revolution of our country, in our transition to deepen and build our democracy into a people's democracy, not just a symbolic participatory democracy that has been stolen by representative democracy. Dr. Pahad was a a senior leader of the Communist Party, a great patriot of our country, a selfless comrade who lived humbly, who respected all people, but was a heavy and towering intellectual, particularly what we characterize as communist intellectuals. As you know, he served in the World Marxist Review, which essentially assessed international development of the socialist struggles and the struggles of the working class towards their emancipation. To that extent, if he was engaging with you and he felt that you are not rising up to the right occasion, you could come out as arrogant, because intellectually he will decapitate you. You needed to raise the bar when you engage with Dr. Pahad on intellectual questions of the revolution. It was not a man to be taken for granted. And in that regard, the Communist Party will miss him dearly. We will certainly organize appropriate time for celebration of this great life, and many of our stalwarts present here will certainly take part. To Comrade Aziz and the family, I know Comrade Aziz was not being well, and recently they lost their youngest brother. The family indeed has been through a great pain over the last few days, and we want to thank all our stalwarts that have been giving support to the family, Mam Peki especially, Mam Hani, who have been quite constant to the families in recent time to give support. On behalf of the SACP and our structures, we want to extend our deepest condolences to the families and to our broad movement, and to say to Comrade Essop Pahad, your intellectual rigor to assess the conditions of the working class of our country, to place the movement that you so led with distinction to be a selfless servant of the people, will never fall down. Your clarion call for us to serve selflessly without personal interest. You demonstrated this up to your last days. We want to thank you for your immense contribution and service to the people of our country. May your undying fighting spirit live on and inspire a new generation of our people to continue the struggle until all forms of exploitation and oppression are eradicated in society. I want to give a thanks, as I also recognize our Premier, for your presence here, and the leadership of the ANC in the province, also for rising up to respond quickly on this occasion of the burial of our dear comrade, Dr. Essop Pahad. Thank you very much. Amandla.
Thank you very much. I'd like to recognize the Treasurer General of the ANC, Comrade Gwen Ramagopa, as well as the Premier of the province, Comrade Panyaza Lesufi. Comrade Solly Mapaila, you spoke about various things, but you didn't talk about the deep ideological debates around the issue of building socialism now, you know. But we'll come back to that at another time, I'm sure. Thank you for that tribute. Fortunately, before Comrade Essop passed away, he completed his book. And I think it makes us all the richer for that. And I'm borrowing, and I had warned the author that I was going to borrow some words from forward to that book, and I'm not going to reveal the author now, safe to encourage you to buy the book once it comes out. But as indicated in the foreword, the book tells the tale of Essop Pahad as he interacts with the historic developments of, including joining the Transvaal Indian Congress and its youth wing, the Transvaal Indian Youth Congress, to and when after two arrests as a period of extreme repression began, he was forced to go into exile at the age of 25. But what I'd like to end on in terms of that quote is the fact that the book tells an inspiring story of how the leadership of our movement responded to a situation during the 1950s, which threatened the education of the Indian youth in Johannesburg by setting up the Central Indian High School, which became known as a Congress school. And in that, and the most remarkable aspect of the Congress school was its cohort of teachers. And the teachers were, in fact, the very leaders of the movement, black and white, people who to this day we honor amongst our most eminent leaders, Michael Hamel, Duma Nokwe, Dan Klume, Molly Fisher, Alfred Hutchinson, Diza Putini, and others, close quotes. And I thought it was appropriate, Comrade Nkosazana, that I just make reference to that before you come up and give a tribute on behalf of the leadership of the African National Congress. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Geraldine. Amandla. Amandla. Malibongwe. Malibongwe. Unfortunately, I can't sing. Maybe unomvula uzocula iculo lomzabalazo. Yeah. Cool. Sizongcwaba size emcimbini we-revolutionary bakithi. Mina ngikwazi ukucula, kuba ngiyakwazi ngabe sengiliqalile iculo. Thank you very much, Comrade Nomvula. Let me greet the Deputy President, both of the ANC and of the country, Comrade Paul, and greet the Pahad family, Comrade Meg, Amina, Govan, Aziz, and the entire Pahad family and the grandchildren. The President, also believe in saying former president. Once a president, always a president. President Thabo Mbeki and Sisanele, and the entire leadership of the ANC, the officials, Nomvula, Gwen, and others that I may not see, and the NEC, both of the ANC and the Alliance, the provincial leadership, the provincial government also, chair and premier all in one, MECs, mayors, and all of us who have come here to bid farewell to Comrade Pahad. On behalf of the African National Congress, it's my distinguished honor and privilege to extend our sincere condolences to the family, but to the country and the continent and all those who knew Pahad across the globe. That this loss of this committed revolutionary and caring internationalist is very sad, but we understand it is the cycle of life. But to be honest, I never thought I could speak at the funeral of Comrade Aziz, because he was my mentor. He was much bigger. It's Essop, sorry. Comrade Essop, because both of them, for me, are towering. They mentored us. I never thought I would be asked to speak. But what can you say? When you are asked, you don't refuse. Nomvula there. In Comrade Essop, we bid farewell to a former Secretary General of the Transvaal Indian Youth Congress, Executive Committee. From 1958 to 64, we bid farewell to a selfless and daring volunteer that risked everything when producing and distributing pamphlets to mobilize communities behind the then banned African National Congress. Dr. Pahad, we bid farewell to a vibrant student activist of the 60s at universities such as Wits and other universities abroad. We bid farewell to a banned and exiled revolutionary who led the ANC and the SACP structures in exile. We are bidding farewell to a leader of the regional command of the ANC Political and Military Council. But let me just share a few anecdotes. Comrade Essop, you got what you see. He spoke his mind. If he had to be rough with you, he was rough. You knew exactly where you stand with Comrade Essop. But there are other aspects that people don't know about him. They know him as a revolutionary, they know him as a family member, but he was also kind-hearted. I'll share with you an anecdote. I first met Comrade Essop in 1976. Just as I left the country, he's amongst the first people I met. First, I met him in Addis, when the AU had a solidarity summit for the Soweto uprising. But then I was sent to Prague, where he was based. And when I got there, Meg is laughing because she knows the story. It was freezing cold, and I'd come from a very warm climate. And when I asked from the ANC, what am I going to wear? There's no one deep there. They said, no, Meg and Essop will sort you out. When I get there, Meg is not there, she's in London. So I'm thinking, So I'm feeling very cold. So Aziz, people, sorry man, who Aziz, I worked with him so closely. He's on my lips. It's not that I'm old. It's because I worked with him so closely. So please. So Essop comes and finds me really cold. And he starts shouting at the organizers. Don't you see she's cold? Don't you know she comes from Africa, where there's no snow? And he gives them a tongue lash, and after that, they put me in a car to go and buy warm clothes. That's Essop. He cares. If there was time, I could share more, but he was very kind-hearted and caring. Yes, he was rough with you when he had to be, but he was very caring. Let me also say that we remember Comrade Essop as a dedicated, frank cadre of the movement who did not miss the opportunity to speak out. But he also created the environment where everybody can speak out. It wasn't like he only can speak out. And Comrade Essop, one of the longest serving members of the National Executive of the ANC, Central Committee of the party. In Comrade Essop, I want to say this. The young of our country have an exemplary revolutionary from whose life story they should draw critical lessons for the times ahead. First, Essop left the country, MKO combatant, and was selfless. He was a selfless patriot. And he put the country first, not himself first. And that's a lesson we must learn, because that's a lesson that is beginning to elude us. Secondly, Dr. Pahad comes from that golden generation of African National Congress and Alliance, who placed loyalty to revolutionary ideas at the forefront of building the broader consensus and ideas as a guide to action. Comrade Essop, at the dawn of democracy, the band SACP in young people in this country only existed in their imagination, because a lot of them grew up when the Communist Party was banned. But when Comrade Essop and his comrades came back, they knew what it meant. He comes from a generation that gave priority to quality and not so much quantity of membership. Yes, we need quantity, but we need quality membership. And that generation placed a lot of premium on quality leadership. We learn from Essop and his collective that the success of an idea must first and foremost depend on its strength and not on the near number of people who support it. From this generation, we learn that internal party democracy is as important and is as good as its form and content. It is the quality and strength of ideas that come out of the SACP underground political machinery, not the size of its membership, that entrenched the party's influence in the entire anti-apartheid movement. Thirdly, consistent throughout this tumultuous history has been the fact that the unity of the alliance is much more than a semantic exercise. Whilst on paper we appear as separate organizations, a deeper and historic introspection clearly shows that even though we were separate organizations, we acted as one. And that bond between the ANC and the SACP and COSATU must be jealously guarded at all material times. Drawing the inspiration from Comrade Essop's generation and the collective that carried us to this point, it is time for the movement to reimagine a kind of society that serves the majority of those in the margins, defend the principles of solidarity, collectivity and redistributed justice. To conclude with the words from Alfredo Sadfield article titled "From COVID-19 to the End of Neoliberalism," I quote, "The COVID pandemic happened by chance, but it was not unexpected. Its consequences are much more than scandalous. They are criminal. And the left must say this loudly and clearly. Neoliberal capitalism has been exposed for its inhumanity and criminality. And COVID-19 has shown that there can be no healthy policy without, no health policy and no healthy communities without solidarity, industrial policy, and state capacity. This is a desperate fight. We must come out of this crisis with a better society. The left is needed like never before, and it must rise up to the challenge. Is the left rising up to the challenge? I don't know. Comrade Essop will now join the galaxy of our heroes and heroines, who, in my view, will be waiting eagerly for the report about the African National Congress and the alliance as a whole. And they'll be wanting to know, how are we doing with the project of ensuring that nobody goes to bed hungry, with lifting people out of poverty, unemployment, homelessness, hopelessness. A report on the extent and the seriousness with which we are responding to the challenges and horrors of gender-based violence and femicide and crime in general. These are just a few things that he would have to report to our heroes and heroines. May the soul of Comrade Essop rest in peace and rise in glory. May his family be comforted by the revolutionary life he led, a true revolutionary that cared for us all. Hamba kahle, Essop, hamba kahle Mkhonto. Uyilwile impi enhle. Usilwele sonke, uhambe kahle. He would be saying, hey wena, uthini?
Malibongwe, libongwe, malibongwe, malibongwe. Thank you. Comrade Nkosazana at least didn't expose me alone by saying she couldn't sing, because I whispered when she came up that I can't sing, and hence I'm not leading any tune, because I didn't want a bouldering call from the other side of the galaxy saying, hey wena funa Geraldine, what is this now? I wanted to just digress slightly and say that when we look at Meg and Comrade Essop's grandchildren sitting on the floor and drawing, Yeah, that's the grandchildren, yes. Because their grandpa was committed to ensuring that there's inclusive spaces. And I think if you look at the front of the room, you can see that. And this is also reflective of a movement that long had kids being kids in difficult spaces. And there are many of us, many families who took their kids into those difficult spaces. So Amina Govan, I'd want to say thank you for bringing him into the room in this way. And I also want to say this is, I think, reflective of a comrade that was quite fierce about walking the talk in various ways. Now, at this particular point in time, we're going to have the flag to be handed over to the family. I'm not sure who exactly receives it because I didn't get that. So I think is that Meg will receive the flag. So I'd like to call Comrades Nomvula, Comrade Gwen, and Comrade Mavuso Msimang to come up for the flag as we bid farewell to Comrade Essop Pahad, a member and a leader of this movement of ours, who participated, amongst others, in the ranks of the leadership of the World Communist Movement. No, this way. Sorry. Clem konto, konto wesizwe. Ambaka clem konto, konto wesizwe. Amandla. Amandla. At this particular point, it brings the end to the ANC part of this funeral. And I now hand the family part of the program, and I now hand over to the state. So Reverend Mashiane, the SAPS chaplain, I hand this over to you.
Thank you, the program director. I was requested by the program director to request Governor Pahad to come forward and read the obituary.
Hello, I'm Governor Pahad, Essop's son. I've been asked to read the obituary on behalf of the family. So, shall I just carry on? Okay. Essop Gulam Pahad was born in the Transvaal in the small town of Swazilandika in 1939. His family home in Ferreirastown in the 1940s and 50s was an open house for many of the leaders of the Congress movement, such as Dr. Yusuf Dadoo, Walter Sisulu, Chief Luthuli, Nelson Mandela, and Ahmed Kathrada. His parents instilled in the family strong anti-racist principles and a genuine concern for all human beings, regardless of race, class, or religion. Essop was an activist in the Transvaal Indian Youth Congress from an early age, and although too young to be a delegate, he attended the Congress of the People in 1955, from which he preserved his own copy of the Freedom Charter. He and his brother Aziz were both banned in 1964, and they went into exile after consulting the leadership. Essop was active in the ANC office in London and the anti-apartheid movement, and was recruited into the SACP. He had a degree from Wits and decided in 1966 to do an MA at Sussex University, where Thabo Mbeki was already studying. There he met many left-wing students who remained his lifelong friends, and also met his wife, Meg Shorrock, who he married in 1971. In 1973, he attended the party school in the Soviet Union, and in 1975 he was sent to Prague to represent the SACP at the World Marxist Review. Here he further developed his commitment to internationalism and made many new friends from communist and workers' parties worldwide. His two children, Amina and Govan, were born in Czechoslovakia. During this time, he also went for military training with Mkhonto Sizwe in Angola, where he contracted malaria and had to be sent back to Prague. Dr. Essop Pahad returned to South Africa in 1990 under the instructions of the SACP to prepare for the launch of the SACP as a legal party, and was joined by his family in 1991. He participated in the ANC negotiations team as part of the CODESA process, as well as in the constitutional negotiations, where he helped to draft our constitution. Essop was elected as a Member of Parliament in 1994 and served as an ANC MP for 14 years. He was appointed Minister in the Presidency and served in this position from 1999 to 2008, spearheading government communications. He was also responsible for coordinating interministerial activities in support of youth, women and persons with disabilities and the rights of the child. During this time as Minister in the Presidency, he also headed the South African project on Mali for the preservation of the Timbuktu manuscripts. He was a very active member of the South Africa 2010 FIFA World Cup Bid Committee, and later the local organizing committee. Comrade Essop Pahad was also a long-standing member of the ANC National Executive Committee and the SACP Central Committee. Throughout his 84 years, His life has been dedicated to the struggle against apartheid in South Africa and the fight for a better world free from all forms of oppression and exploitation. He passed away peacefully in his sleep on the morning of the 6th of July at his home in Johannesburg. He is survived by his brothers Aziz and Nassim, his wife Meg, his children Amina and Govan, and 5 grandchildren, Asani, Dania, Xavier, Hugo, and Tao. I'd just like to finish by thanking all the close family and friends who came to visit him during the last few weeks. Towards the end, when he became very sick, we couldn't go out of the house. He couldn't leave his oxygen machine. So he couldn't do a lot of the things that always brought him joy. But when his family and friends came to visit, his face would always light up. And every day his grandchildren would come and visit him. And they'd run into the room and smile and hug their papa and tell him that they loved him. And it was something that brought joy and happiness at the very end of his life, no matter how weak and sick he was feeling. He would always be so happy to see his grandchildren. So thank you very much to all of you for making your papa feel special. Thank you all very much.
I'm now going to request the South African Police Service to come forward and drape the coffin. May I request to respect the national flag, please? On behalf of the Gauteng province, I'm now going to request the Premier of Gauteng, Mr. Billy, to come forward and pay the tribute.
Thank you so much, Program Director. Truly appreciate it. I want to take this opportunity to recognize and appreciate Essop Pahad's family and relatives, the leadership of government represented here by Deputy Minister Paul Mashatile, Deputy President Paul Mashatile. I want to acknowledge and appreciate the presence of ministers and deputy ministers, the leadership of Parliament, and the NCOP. I also want to acknowledge and appreciate the presence of the former President Thabo Mbeki, former Deputy President, and those that led government. We also want to appreciate the leadership of our alliance, the SACP, COSATU, and the African National Congress, our veterans and stalwarts, and representatives of various formations that are here. On behalf of the Gauteng government and the citizens of our province, we extend our sincere condolences to Dr. Essop Pahad's family. What we used to cherish is no more. What we used to marvel has left us. A thinker, a planner, a coordinator, a strategist, and a communicator par excellence. In Comrade Essop Pahad, we're the leader. In Comrade Essop Pahad, we're the patriot. In Comrade Essop Pahad, we're an internationalist. In Comrade Essop Pahad, we're the revolutionary that cared about our country. We may be hurt, but let's release him. We may be disappointed, but he played his role. We may have many questions that we need to answer, but we doubt this is the moment. But every time we gather and meet like this, there is one crucial question that lingers in our minds, that the role that they played and the contributions that they've made, was it worth it? We gather here to confirm that it was indeed worth it to destroy apartheid and its systems. We gather here to confirm that our leadership and our struggle was led by people with impeccable credentials. Those that can learn about this leadership will be in a position to pave and strengthen the future of our country. To the family, remain strong and be assured of our support. To our veterans, our leadership, remain strong and be comforted that our struggle is still safe. To Comrade Essop Pahad, I was one of those people that were mentored and developed into government communication by you. At one stage, I felt that I need to reward your support by always going to a retail shop called Essop, thinking it was a retail shop. I learned very late that was indeed a different Essop. As we bid you farewell, Dr. Essop Pahad, go well, fellow cadre, go well, our leader, go well, our communist. You played your part, and we want to assure you, we will never, never, never surrender this freedom. Thank you so much. Go well, country.
On behalf of the Republic of South Africa, I'm now going to request the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Paul Mashatile, to come forward and do the eulogy. May I request all of us just to arise, excluding the family, to show the respect.
You may be seated. I'm busy this side, I forgot about you. Thank you very much, Program Director. President Thabo Mbeki Sizanele, Premier Panyaza Lusufi. Amina was laughing at me. The Premier says, you see, he has demoted you. Comrade Mac, I'm looking at you. Our condolences to you, sincere condolences. Comrade Govan, Comrade Amina, Prof. Anjina, the children, the grandchildren. When I was at home yesterday, when I arrived, I found Amina sitting in the bedroom, holding Comrade Essop's hand. So I went to sit with her, and she said to me, so I said to her, is he sleeping? He says, no. You can talk to him. I don't know if he will hear you, but so I said, Comrade Essop, it's Paul Mashatile, I'm here, but he was quiet. So we sat there for a while with Amina, and then we went downstairs where I spent a lot of time with Comrade Mac in the garden. And Comrade Mac said to me, you know, the way Comrade Essop loved the grandchildren. They would always run to the bedroom and, you know, we're going to greet Papa, and they run up and down. So it's good to see all of you, the grandchildren. I saw you yesterday. Remember? They were running around as usual. Program Director, we woke up to the sad news of the passing of a tried and tested cadre, a leader of the people of South Africa, Comrade Essop Pahad. As I said earlier yesterday, I had the opportunity to visit Comrade Essop and his family. It was impossible and most painful to reconcile his frail state with the energetic, assertive, and forthright Comrade Essop that I have come to know for many decades. As all of you know that when you are with Comrade Essop, he'll always say, hey, Wena, what are you up to? Or Suga when? And yesterday there was nothing of that. But I personally first encountered Comrade Essop through the archives of the liberation movement. He and his contemporaries featured in photographs. It was on the margins of the 1956 treason trial, where they had these placards and posters on outside the court with the words there, hands off our leaders. So Comrade Essop was there. So that's the first time I saw this young man with the posters, hands off our leaders. Our generation accepted him as our leader because we knew that he grew up at the collective knee of the generation of Oliver Tambo, Yusuf Dadu, N.T. Naika, Regis September, Joe Slovo, Helen Joseph, and many others of our outstanding liberators. An active member of the Congress Youth Movement. As other speakers said, he was one of the Transvaal Indian Youth Congress volunteers who produced and distributed ANC pamphlet and posters in the 3 years after the 1960 banning of our movement. For his activities against the apartheid regime, he was banned for 5 years until he left the country to join the movement in exile in 1964. His maturity into full membership and leadership of the ANC and the South African Communist Party spoke to the importance of political organization as a school and teacher in society. He also trained in Umkhonto Wesizwe in Angola. Comrade Essop represented the SACP on the editorial council of the World Marxist Review from 1975 to 1985. He was thus one of the leading cadres of our movement and did much to advance the international pillar of our struggle. Comrade Essop internalized the Marxist adage that says, to leave error unrefuted is to encourage intellectual immorality. He was a robust intellectual who always sought the best possible decisions for the organization, for our nation, and ultimately for humanity. He said about his period in exile, he said, when you are in exile, there are times when the light at the end of the tunnel is very dim. You always felt that you were very far from home. Program Director, to underscore his interest in the free and democratic exchange of ideas, Comrade Essop also said the following: you had a great amount of time to read when he was in exile, to study, to discuss, to debate, and to get involved in all of these discussions, not only with your own comrades, but also with many other people. It was a wonderful opportunity to be able to meet representatives of the Communist Party from all over the world. That's what he said. This was an all-round public intellectual whose political consciousness was shaped under the aegis of the Congress movement. In 1994, he became one of the cadres the ANC deployed into the first democratic parliament, which gave us hope about the future of the democratic South Africa. When he left public service in 1994, Comrade Essop established The Thinker, a quarterly journal for discussion which added to the diversity of opinion in our media and public discourse spaces. This is yet another of his numerous notable and unerasable contributions to the betterment of our society. Our movement and society is challenged to construct an environment in which, though they do not become clones, young people become as dependable as Essop's generation. In this way, the democratization project does not lose its way. Comrade Essop has left a void. In his lifetime of struggle, he traversed the world to ensure that our struggle delivered victory to the ordinary masses of our people. We who remain are obliged to spare no effort to ensure that we stay the course. As I conclude, let me remember the words of Nikolai Ostrowski that comes to mind. He said, "Man's dearest possession is life. It is given to him but once, and he must live it so as to feel no torturing regrets for wasted years, never know the burning shame of a mean and petty past. So live that. Dying, he might say, all my life, all my strength were given to the finest cause in all the world, the liberation of mankind." It's like Nikolai was speaking about Essop Pahad. Lala ngoxolo, Comrade Essop, you worked for your nation. Lala ngoxolo, fare thee well. Our dear brother, our comrade, grandfather to your grandchildren. Siyabonga. Mandla.
You may be seated. I'm now going to request the marshalling officer of this special provincial funeral with the team to come forward and undrape the flag. Then they will hand over the standard flag, the replica of the standard flag, to the District Commissioner of Johannesburg, Major General M. Masha, who will then hand over the standard flag to the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa. Then the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa will hand over the standard flag to Mrs. Pahad. Why the standard flag? Is to honor the services that Pahad rendered in the Republic of South Africa. With the protocol, I'm now going to request the Deputy President to come in the feet to do the bracing, then will be followed by the Premier of Gauteng to do the same. Just to brace from the feet facing the head there. Yeah, just yeah, just yes. That concludes the official funeral. I'm now going to hand over the Mulal to come forward and do in a Muslim tradition. Mulala, come forward. Thank you. Okay, the boat will be taken to the front where there will be a short prayer. That's all. Thank you.
Should I go and plug this there now? Ask you to move a little, but go back, please. I'm sorry.
it's not the right one. It's in the front. Yeah? This is the wrong right tripod. It's in the front where I was.
The front?
Yes.
Where you was?
Yes. Not this one. Over. Yeah. Quickly. You see where I was?
Yeah. See, put this on.
Sure.
Put this on.
Yeah.
الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم اغفر لحينا وميتنا وشاهدنا وغائبنا وصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وأنثانا. اللهم من أحييته منا فأحيه على الإسلام ومن توفيته منا فتوفه على الإيمان. اللهم اغفر له وارحمه وسكنه في الجنة. اللهم اغفر له وارحمه وروحه في الجنة. اللهم اغفر له وارحمه وأدخله في الجنة. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وأصحابه وبارك وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
the cable. Good. Yeah, leave it. Set your feet to your...
You think you're going to make it further?
They're still extending.
Second time. Greeted me.
Very easy. This is very easy.
Yeah, but I know they took up the morning, so that the guys will... Yeah, lying on the side.
You got the box there?
Yeah, take it out.
Wait, no,
Come. Can come. Too short.
It's not too short. This one, this side. Just told you
May allow doorway capture. Yeah, come. Your side.
I don't know, I hope so.
Someone older maybe?
Yeah.
Right, standing on its own. Right. Pull the bottom shoulder towards you. Bottom shoulder, pull it towards the head. Now the head should face the knees like that. Release forward. Stand on its own. Don't take it forward. Not with the bottom shoulder more towards you. Standing on its own. You guys can come out, step ready. Be careful, be careful. Watch out, watch out. Come on, let's come on. Against. Now just be careful to step coming off. Just angle like this. Against the block. Start here.
Right in the corner, Gavin. Right to the end. As far back to the Gavin. Right to the end. Right to the end. Right against the no gap. No gap. That's it.
That's it. Perfect. Should carry on it.
Yeah, put them in line from the bottom to the top. Yes.
Thank you. Watch your head. Really close your eyes.
Just cover and just over that from
Can't go in. Tuck it into all the corners. Tuck it into all the corners.
No, on the side. On the side, yeah. Yeah, you see those gaps there on the side? Just try and tuck it in on there.
Just no, not same, just like a. That's it, perfect. Sorry, brother, take this here. Put on the top, you should close the flap here.
This here, right on top, there we go.
Perfect, just like that. Just like that, perfect. Okay, as long as it's closed. That's fine, that's fine. Just hold it down, that's fine. Step ladder, please, guys.
Step ladder, guys.
That's fine. Sand will hold it down. Why don't you just put them out, please? No, get that. Get that. No. Let's bring the step ladder.
Watch your head.
Watch your head, brothers, what we're going to do is we're going to throw 3 handfuls first. We're going to give the guys time to come out. Family members can throw 3 hands first. We're going to allow everyone to throw 3 hands first. Once everyone has had an opportunity to fill with their hands, we're going to then use the spades. All right?
Not the spade, my guy. Not the spade. Be careful, man. Careful, boy. Don't fall in, please.
Hello. Wait. Jangan makan ni. There we go. Only my check.
Okay.
No, just
Yes, I did.
come.
Sure.
Come, guys.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Okay, anybody else?
الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يوقنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما كسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما فقدنا به
واعف عنا
وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين.
We need more on that side. Same. Same. Same, just back. Same.
Maulana, just come a little bit more that side. We're lacking that side.
So I mustn't steal it.
One announcement, inshallah, as soon as the dua is done, Essop Salah will be read here on the right hand side where we are currently sitting. As soon as the dua is done, Essop Salah will inshallah be read on the right hand side. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألف ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة يوقنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون.
Yeah, what you want? No, I And you said I said you right. No, you said. Did you get? Yes, he did. Right, yeah. Here is. Give up. They said I could get to the Sigma. It is. Look at it. Exactly. Sigma.
That's for a while. How are you doing? I don't want to get What's this?
He's gone. He's gone.
Take the other space there. Come, give them the space.
Did you guys get the run?
Just take the space, they come. Take the space.
Did you get the guy from Sorry, they found him.
Just take the other space there. Zaid, machine can't come through because the president's car is blocked. Can't you?
You're almost done.
Yeah. Just give him the space there.
What happened to the brand new? So can you understand?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك اللهم لا نحصي ثناء عليك أنت كما أثنيت على نفسك اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم اغفر له وارحمه وسكنه في الجنة اللهم اغفر له وارحمه وسكنه في الجنة اللهم اجعل قبورهم روضة من رياض الجنة اللهم اغفر لهم وارحمهم وعافهم واعف عنهم وأكرم نزلهم ووسع مدخلهم واغسلهم بالماء والثلج والبرد ونقهم من الذنوب والخطايا كما ينقى الثوب الأبيض من الدنس اللهم لا تحرمنا أجرهم ولا تفتنا بعدهم واغفر لنا ولهم اللهم اجعل قبورهم روضة من رياض الجنة ولا تجعلها حفرا من حفر النار اللهم اغفر لحينا وميتنا وشاهدنا وغائبنا وصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وانثانا اللهم من احييته منا فاحيه على الاسلام ومن توفيته منا فتوفه على الايمان اللهم إنا نسألك من كل خير ما سألك منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من كل شر ما استعاذك منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم اجعل عنا نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم بما هو أهله ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Salam will inshallah get it here on the green carpet. Salam will inshallah get it now here on the green carpet.
Good done. Ada? Ada?
Check out.
Don't pull people. No, being here for that. And I'm on that thread. What's going on here? What's up?